Okay, so we're moving along with this modeling. I've got an entrance apron finished up, or a couple of them. Now, I just noticed we have not done anything with existing pavement yet. So let's go ahead and model the existing. You can do that right away before you even get started with your proposed, or even just do it with the proposed, and that's, I guess, what I typically do. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. That's how we did it on this project. I'm just going to jump ahead a couple sections here. Let's see, find a good one that kind of represents what's going on with the project. Yeah, right there. That looks good. Okay, so as you can see, we've got our proposed gutter, back slopes in. We've got our surface course, binder course. We're also going to have some proposed base course in there once you see what the existing is made up of. So let's take a quick look at the typical section. And this job is a little unusual in that the 969 pavement still exists. But then instead of widening the pavement in the various iterations of developing this roadway over many years, they first went with a gutter section, right at the 9 foot. But then rather than remove it, they just overlaid it. And so kind of treated it like it was widening, so to speak. And then years later, then they came back and kind of piggybacked another gutter on that. So anyway, that was the case. Very unusual, honestly. And so it took a bit to get a template that worked just right for that. But that's, like I said, not real common. So I don't know that we're going to do exactly that right here. We'll probably do what's a little bit more common and show maybe some widening with the gutter section. So anyway, let's get moving on to existing. We're just going to go back to that same template. Which is, it's over here in our project templates, right? So let's see, let me get rid of this for a minute. There it is. So there's the template we've been working on. So we want to add some 969 pavement, and then some widening and existing gutter on both sides. So what we do, like we always do, we go up to the IDOT library, see if we can find anything. And if you look in templates, rule, undivided, you'll find an existing template that we could use. Now, the way these existing templates work are a little different than the other components that we were using that made up a template. On this one, if we were to double click on it, we would see that it's set up as more of like an overlay stripping type situation where we're just going to follow the existing surface. And that's exactly what we want to do. We want to, when we're drafting our existing pavement, we just want to go out, follow that existing surface, and then go down whatever surface depth our existing pavement is. So we can also look here. And let's see, let's look here. Okay, yeah, that's where you're seeing that component depth. In this particular case, I just clicked on the surface. So that's going to be, I guess, drafted first. And they've got this component depth of 0.25. So whatever your existing overlay thickness is, you just key in that number there. Okay, so this, if you look at this, it's got the 969 pavement, it's got some widening, and then over on the right side, you can see that it has an existing gutter, which is exactly what we need. Now, actually, I believe there's a gutter on both sides. It's probably just turned off. I think what I'm going to do here is just make a copy of that because I might modify it a little bit before we add it to our main template. So I'm just going to place it in the project template. So now I've got that template available here. And I can take a look at it and say, yeah, this is real close, to my situation. I might want to double click on this point here. Let's see. I want the one that shows the width. It says shows 2 foot. Oh, maybe it's gone from there. 7 foot. Okay, we'll base it from there. And we can see, okay, this is 969 pavement, so that means the 9 is representing the width of that initial pavement, which only went out to here to begin with. And so they've got 2 points. It looks like they've got a dimension set to this location where the pavement thickness becomes thicker on the edges, so that's 7 foot. And then there's another 2 foot. But then that's identified from that previous point. And so that's good. That's exactly what we want. That's our situation. And then we've got some widening. We could see how wide that was. So this looks like the widening is not defined by those 2 previous points, but it's defined. They've got it defined by the center line. So that's going 11 foot out. So let's see. Yeah, that should work for us also, I think. And then beyond that, we've got that gutter. And there's 2 points there. Let me grab the point that gives the width. Let's see. Oh, I see. Okay, in this particular case, which this is actually pretty nice, sometimes we will go ahead and include the width right in the point itself. Otherwise, we'll set up a separate null point to actually go out and seek the gutter. So that way, if it's your desire, if you've got the topo of the existing pavement, the existing gutter, and maybe it varies some and you want to follow that, you could have this seek point that would look for that. Either look for that, you could use that as like a point control like we talked about earlier, or actually now that I data point it, I'm looking on it, I see what they did. I think what they did was set up a display rule to begin with. So they're kind of using this point for 2 different purposes. One would be like default, they've got the 2 foot offset, but then I'm sure if I click on the component, let's see. I thought it would say display rule there. Okay, maybe not. Let me just test that out. Okay, well, I guess maybe not in this particular case, which is fine. There's a whole variety of ways you can do this. It's just you need to learn the tools and understand what's going on with it. Kind of play around with it yourself. But what's nice is we've got this ability to test it, so I can see what they're doing. I can see the reason why they're using this seek gutter, and that's going to be more or less to either use as a parametric constraint, which that's what that label is. So that would give you, if the difference between a parametric constraint, is that we can go into the corridor later and override this value. Or even if it tapers out, we could have them narrow width and then go down, select another station, have a wider width, or maybe we just want to change the width. And we can do that because they have a label set in place. Other things that we can do, we can use these horizontal feature constraints, which what they're going to be looking for is a line that's in your file that actually is tagged with a particular feature, and then it's always going to be looking for that feature, like looking for the gutter, if it's drawn properly only. And that's the only time you'd want to use it. If you know for certain it's drawn properly in the topo, then what you could do is just have the set the horizontal feature constraint, and then it's always going to be looking for any lines, not one particular line with a particular line that has a name to it, not one line, but really any line that has that particular feature definition. It's always going to be seeking that. So we got a couple things going on here. Now let's go over to the left side. Let me click on that and click on test point control, test all. And you can see, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing here. The only difference was that by default, they've got the seek gutter right at the edge of pavement, which is good because then that way you could use this template by default to say there's no gutter at all. That's actually a really good idea. I think I'm going to go over here, click on this point, change it to 0, just like the left-hand side. I like that. And then I will save that off. And then I'm going to go to my main template here. And then what I want to do is I'm actually going to be dragging and dropping that existing pavement. But before I do that, let me take a look at my dynamic settings, and I'm going to need to change this because right now this is going to change very soon in the environment. It has not changed yet. So I'm going to change the amount to 0.1. So that has to do with snapping. And so I can close it now, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm just going to grab that template, and as I pull it out here, see, as I get close to a grid, then it's going to snap to it. Now, what I like to do, this is kind of different, but what I like to do with existing pavement is I actually drop it way down here. And even though it's not down there, but the reason why I do that is it just it kind of, you see how many points and components there are, and they're kind of overlapping and stuff. So by me putting it down here, they're out of the way, which is nice. And the other reason is just because of the way that the existing components are made up. Like I was saying, it's not necessarily going to use this location. It's not going to draft the existing pavement, 3 or 4 feet under where it should be. Instead, it's going to use these component properties, which are like these overlay stripping type properties right here. And it's going to say, follow the surface. And that's what it's going to do. It's going to follow the active surface. So let's go ahead and go with that as is. And then we can go ahead and save this off, exit out. I guess I'll go ahead and check it in. We could have just closed it. But what I'm going to do now is, okay, so now the template has been updated, but we're going to do what we've really been doing throughout this whole project is, we didn't change the template that we're using. All we're saying is that, okay, we went in, we messed with the template, which is separate, and it was dropped on here. So there's a copy of it dropped in this corridor. So I like the way I changed my template. So what I'm doing now is I'm synchronizing this template with my template library. And that's exactly what it did. And, just as I had mentioned previously, you don't see that existing pavement down below. It went up, it found that surface, and then it just followed that surface to draft in that existing overlay, which most likely it would be thicker than 0.25, probably. But, you would change it to whatever it actually is. And then by default, of course, we did not have the gutter turned on, remember, because of the display rule of that gutter. But if we choose to turn that back on, all we need to do is move over that seek point. Because remember, when we moved over that null seek point, the gutter turned on, right? And so we could do that through various ways. We could do it, like I had mentioned, we could do it as a parametric constraint because there is a label set for it. I guess we could do that here. Or we could do it as point control or a horizontal feature constraint. Multiple ways we could do this. We'll just In this case, the gutter doesn't vary much in width. It just, it's pretty consistent. So I think I'm just going to use a parametric constraint. Right there, I believe. Yeah. I'll use a parametric constraint, and then I'll just change that. I'll set that label to, should say something about existing gutter width. Okay, so there's the left width. And so, yeah, you could start and stop it where, you would know wherever that gutter happens to stop. It looks to me like it stops here, unless we wanted to also use it for the existing outlet. There's various ways you can handle that. I think I'm just going to snap to this point right here, and then I would do the same down the line wherever it ends. And then I'm going to accept my left existing gutter width, and I'm going to change that to a negative anything here, -2. It doesn't really matter what that number is, just so it's not 0 in this case. And again, the stopping is going to be -2. And so now that it moved over, you can see that there's the gutter. And I would do the same exact thing on the right-hand side. Okay, so this was basically our situation. If we wanted to change more about this, we could have either changed it in the template itself, or I can always come back, because you probably noticed that they did set a lot of labels, and so we could really change virtually anything about this based on the corridor, not just the template itself necessarily, because that's just the way that parametric constraints work. Within the full corridor, you may have multiple templates, and as long as we use the same constraint label, we have the ability to change that label in one parametric constraint, regardless of if it's in just one template or multiple templates. So, okay, let's leave it at that. And then I also wanted to show cross-hatching some removal items, but I think we'll do that in a separate video.